shoulders.
Okay, welcome to week 5, where we are going to go over kind of a different aspect of the sage perspective and then using the idea of the explore and the innovate power. This is again one of those opportunities for not just us to think differently, but feel differently, which is, I think, a great gift in the program, is not just using our heads, it's using our embodiment, using our feelings as guides into what's going on and guides out of something that we don't want. Rick, do you want to do the awesomeness?
Yeah, yeah. Let's do some PQs and get into our higher brains. So let's close our eyes and let's start with our feet on the ground.
Hmm.
And just experience how your feet touch the ground, whether you're in shoes or barefoot or stocking feet. Notice how your feet are. Is the weight more on the toes or the heel or spread evenly? More on the outside of the feet or more on the inside? And see if you can find each of your 10 toes. And then bring your awareness up to your knees and explore where your knees are in relationship to your feet and your ankle. Are they in front or behind? Are they further out or closer into each other than the feet? Or straight up? Just notice and observe where your body is in space in relation to one body part to the other. And then explore your hip joint. And just notice where your hip joint is in space on the seat that you're sitting in, and how far back behind the knees, and where that is in relationship to your ankles and your feet. And then let's come up all the way to the shoulders. And just notice where your shoulders are in relationship to your hip. Is it directly above? Are you leaning a little bit forward, a little bit back, more to the right, more to the left? Just kind of noticing the relationship between your shoulders and your hip, and your shoulders and your knees, and your shoulders and your feet and ankles. Let's come up and find your chin and notice where your chin is in relationship to your shoulders. Is it in direct alignment with it? Is it forward? Is it back? Is it closer to the right or closer to the left shoulder? Just notice. And then find the top center of your head and notice where that is in relationship to your chin, your shoulders, your hips, your knees, and your feet on the floor. And when you're ready, open your eyes. I kind of like doing that one today because we're talking about being in our bodies as a tool for moving into sage. You know, we talk a lot in the program about how saboteurs and sage have an experience, a physicalized experience in the body. And I find, that there were so many interesting takeaways from this training compared to the first time around. This one is probably the one that is most different. Love some of the things like him including into everything the uh, idea of accept or convert, which is something that wasn't in the original but was in the ongoing program, something that was really emphasized later but not upfront. And it's such a useful and powerful tool. So we'll get into all that. But before we go too far forward, let's look back at last week with what was it like your week with the empathize practice? What questions or discoveries surfaced for you during that week? Let's go around and share. So, Cindy, why don't you share first? What was your week empathizing like?
So I'm trying to be gentle with myself this morning. I talk about that. Last week was just chaos. So I didn't get to a lot of things. I didn't have the opportunity to get to a lot of things. Of the different aspects that I got to listen to and practice and all, I think the one that spoke to me the most was love your body. One of the reasons it was so much chaos is it's that time of year where there was so many annual physical kinds of things going on and testing and checking in with different doctors and dealing with my arthritis and blah 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 blah. And then with our puppy too, getting her spayed. So I mean it was just non-stop with stuff. So the love your body one really spoke to me. And in terms of, yeah, you're running to all these different places, but my God, how lucky you are that you have all these resources to use and to tap into and to be able to get to the gym and work out and work through some of that pain and all of that. So it just was, rather than me bitching about what a weekend had been, it got me out of my head and more into a sense of acceptance with, yeah, this is where I am, and then action in terms of an appreciation along with the action in terms of, yeah, and all the more reason not to put off going to the gym, all the more reason to maybe put off baking the Christmas cookies for everybody else and get my ass into the gym instead. Those kinds of things. So that was my biggest this past week.
Excellent. I love that. That's loving your body. Great takeaway.
Love that it got you into different action. Thank you for sharing. All right.
David, your turn. What were your takeaways from last week?
My takeaways were everything ran pretty much in parallel with a lot of what I think I've been already doing. A lot of is that I try to being an overthinker or in my head all the time. I daily take myself out of my head and into my body, and so I think I do. My biggest takeaway was I noticed I do almost all of my PQ reps outside of the gym, and just in that when I am sitting at breakfast or looking out in the morning, or this what I was a little activity I call see, hear, feel, and just sitting there and going, do I see something and then label it, or do I hear it, or do I feel it, and then just being very receptive about that. And so this kind of a state in alignment was getting into my body, because that is a place that I think is very grounding. And that was one of my biggest takeaways, was just that big reminder of staying out of my head, and same thing, Cindy had a, very, very, I say productive week, because I got a lot of things done. It was like the hours were just flying by. I'm like, dang, it's Wednesday already. It's like, wow. And then I would sit there, and right before I go to bed, I sit there and I just go, how did I do today? And I just kind of go, wow, I did good today. I got this done and that felt good and this felt good. And this is an area that I'm reminded where I need to work on some more, so those are a little check-in. So that's what this really helped me with. My takeaway was just really staying in my body and checking in. Yeah, that was my takeaway.
Excellent. And that productiveness. I noticed that too. Interesting that empathy leads to productivity.
Big time.
Yeah. Denny, what were your takeaways from your week with empathy?
You're muted.
Yeah.
I went off mute in the wrong place. There we go. Well, I'm having quite an interesting experience with my body. I'm just thrilled with it. I've just spent this week thinking I'm the cutest damn thing you'd ever want to see. I have just allowed myself to just see how absolutely adorable I am. Now, when I was a kid, when I would look at myself in the mirror, my mother would say, "Oh, you really like yourself, don't you?" Well, yes, I do. And I have had an experience where I took this medication, and man, within 6 weeks, I gained 12, 15 pounds. Well, on my short little body, you can't do that. I mean, I was so uncomfortable. And so not only did I lose that, but I lost a little more, and I am so damn cute. Mm. I'm also old, but I'm the cutest old lady you're going to ever want to see. So that's been my week with my body. And I've been kind, and I've been saying things like, it's going to be okay now. You're going to feel better. Everything's, I mean, it's just been kind of amazing. With this permission to love my body, I've had a great time. I broke all the old rules. I mean, the fact that I am actually saying this out loud, I'm breaking all the old rules. But I just can't help it. I'm just so damn cute. What are you going to do? Okay.
Love it.
That's been my week.
Fun. Thank you. Don, what was your takeaway from this week? What is your empathize power been?
I was actually a lot like Cindy and didn't have a lot of time. It didn't seem like, but what I did notice is I didn't do a lot of the my saboteurs got in, right? I didn't do a lot of the dailies when I was supposed to. I kind of did them in the last 3 days, like the whole week. And I noticed that when I don't do the sage steps or the daily things, that I really go into that saboteur mode. So unfortunately, I realized that today how much this program is actually helping dictate my sage and saboteurs. I obviously I did everything, but I had to have productivity with my saboteurs, which is very much more difficult to have productivity with. Seems like everything you do, if it doesn't work out the first time, you really go into that saboteur mode for me anyway. Like kind of get frustrated with yourself, with others very, very quickly. So yeah, my saboteurs got in absolutely most of the week. And then they got in even more so when I missed a day, because then I'm like, well, I might as well just skip the whole thing now, which it's so odd for me because I don't want to say it's so odd for me, but it's difficult to get back on track if you fall off the wagon for me. And I wish I could have just progressively kept going on, but it was just a shit week for me. So, so yeah, I don't know what else to say on that, other than the fact that today, after going through those, I feel like I should have been doing them all week. Just haven't taken that time to be able to do that, I guess was hurting me.
So you could have been doing them all week and you didn't. And it's really important to get back to celebrating first steps. It's like, oh, I didn't do the daily focus. I got a couple minutes now. Let's just pick up the app and do it. And then the moment you pick up the app, woohoo, I'm doing it. Yay, I did my daily focus. It gives you a little congratulations just for opening the app. He's rewarding you all the way through.
You know what kind of drives me nuts though? It's like when I do remember to do the daily focus, then you have the two training things right after that. But it's like I don't want to do those simultaneously. And it seems like sometimes I'll get to the daily focus and it'll be, 8 o'clock at night or whatever it may be. And then it's almost like okay, what am I doing the daily focus for if I'm not going to do the other parts? That's where my mind goes.
Right,
it's like
right.
you either do it or you don't.
All or none.
All or none. You do it or you don't, right? That's exactly what
right.
it is. And I can't get past that.
Yeah. So bravo, as David just said, great for catching yourself, right? That's the awareness. You see the pattern and you're seeing how you do that pattern elsewhere. Like, great, yay. If that's your takeaway from the week, that is huge. And we invite just an encouragement to have you move out of saboteur mode, which is push, beat yourself up, tell yourself it's all or nothing, and go to, if I do it, well, that'd be great. If I don't, oh, well, tomorrow's another day. Start fresh then. And it's that first step, reward it. I think we did you a disservice the first time around in the way that it was all presented compared to how it is now. So you have the unfortunate training of Shirzad's initial take, which was, you do the first thing, and then you got to make sure you get in the others and send those notifications on your phone. And well, if you miss one, it might be okay, but really try to get those in and that push. And I let myself this time, I do the daily focus. I celebrate it. If I get to one of the recharges, great. If I don't, oh, well. So not an issue. I don't find myself looking at the number and where am I at or any of that this time. But what is happening that didn't happen the first time is I'm waking up every morning and before I read my emails, I'm listening to the daily focus. That has been such a huge piece for me. Because every time I read my emails or look at the news, I pull myself out of the sage brain and I'm starting my day with saboteur. And that one little thing has been life-changing for me. And that it took 4 years before I got to that habit. And that habit came from not beating myself up every time I missed a silly recharge. It's like, hey, I grew the brain the first round.
and I really think that's part of what it is, right? I mean, the old program, right? The one that I did 6 months ago is still lodged in my head someplace.
Yeah.
Possibly. But and I know how you are, right? You're probably like I am, right? You skip that. You did the daily focus, you celebrated that. You missed the 2 trainings. The next day, I'm sure you went back and did the trainings from the day before. Maybe.
I did that the first time, but not with these. Whatever. I probably haven't heard all the recharges of this new one because life happens. I'm probably terrible at entering my sage steps and my PQ reps. And it's okay because I'm catching it, I'm celebrating it. And he's got some tools to help you remember to enter them all, like put them on your fingers and your toes. Oh, okay, that's one. Okay, my pinky is down on the left hand. Oh, okay, that's the next finger. I've got another. And then when you go, okay, what finger was I on? Where am I at? And you enter them. Just a way to assign them to your body or places in your house to remember it. But the other piece is I don't need it. I don't need it. I'm getting the benefits without the app telling me I've reached this level or done that thing. And that's what's most important to me is picking up the new habit. So my emphasis has shifted to new habit versus scoring something on the app.
Don, I'm going to jump in. Two things. First of all, get some. Get some reps. Get some. Get some focus. You don't have to get all, just get some.
Sure.
Secondly, congratulations. You recognize that your saboteurs show up a lot more often if you're not PQing. Oh, nice work. That is a great realization.
Yeah, and I really noticed, or remembered, I should say, like it's been a while. I noticed what Rick said about getting into the daily focus before you do anything
Yep.
else with your phone, and I haven't been doing that this week.
It's a
So I
good
really
rule of thumb.
noticed. I really noticed being in a bad spot this week.
Good for you for noticing.
Yay! Woohoo! Don is noticing.
And I'm going to
Celebrate.
keep telling you, get some. Get some. Don, get some.
All right, Tracy, share with us what your interesting week was like with Empathize.
This week, I had to be very productive in regards to end of year bookkeeping, bookwork, computer work, where I could have been beating myself up for not getting this stuff done more throughout the year. I did practice the empathize on myself, and I do think that helped me be more productive. So, Rick, as you mentioned earlier, empathy equals more productive. I think that really, really did help me this week because I really could have just kicked myself like, oh, I should have had this done before now. But it is what it is. I didn't and showed myself some empathy and was able to be productive. And then I had to laugh on the day of learning to or loving your life. I had to spend 7 hours in the car with my husband that day. And as most of you are aware, my relationship with my husband is a work in progress, but we don't always travel the best together. And I caught myself just very sarcastically saying, I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. Which wasn't probably exactly what it was supposed to do, but it did make me smile, did take me out of the negative emotions I was having about traveling with my husband. So that was kind of an interesting one. And with my husband too, I did try really hard to use the empathy power on him, really trying to picture him as a child. He had a rough upbringing, so really trying to focus on that. I do intend to get a picture of him as a child and try to use that somehow, which I did not do, but I do plan to try that as well. So yeah, a couple different pieces for me.
Love it. That productivity thing, what a surprise.
Yeah, that was great.
Excellent. Thank you. Justin, what was your week like?
Well, it was kind of a shit week, and I'm going to take all those congratulations and attaboys that you gave to Dawn, clone them, put them inside of me, and give them back to Dawn and thank him for letting me borrow them. Because it was a very similar story. Because going through a lot with I'm going to teach my art program for a week in Brooklyn in January. That school is having me go run through so many hoops and fill out so much paperwork and do so many errands to be able to do this. There's security checks and shit like that. And I totally understand. And I'm thankful for that because, that way they don't get weirdos in the school. But it was so much. And when procedure things come in, paperwork, law things, anything with procedure, I get very, very uptight and really anxious. So I've been dealing with this, running through, and they had me go 60 miles to get fingerprinted. Then I had to go another 60 miles to have my doctor sign some paper. And then I had to go another place yesterday and get blood drawn for some tubercular tests. And it's too much, and I've really been in the victimization saboteur coming in, really felt like this has really been put upon and I told them, I said, I just don't understand why you're making me do all this. They said, look, it's standard for anybody who's working here for more than a day. You have to go through it. I said, I'm not working. I'm volunteering my time. I'm not making a dime out of this. And that's the part that really is killing me. So yeah, finally got the blood drawn yesterday, and all I had to do is get two references, a couple of friends to sign some shit and send it in. So that was all I had left to do. I see an email yesterday from the compliance guy at the school saying so and so's taking care of all this. You don't need to do any more paperwork. It's all taken care of. Instead of going, yay, I went and got angry that I went through all that shit and I didn't need to.
What the hell?
And I noticed it and I went, okay, that's a victim and going 100 miles an hour in here. Be glad you don't have to do any more of this. You've been tortured with this shit for 2 weeks now. So there's been a lot of noticing. And so then when I was trying to play catch up on the daily stuff, and then on Friday and Saturday, because I've been so crazy all week and I've ignored it all, and I didn't even notice I was ignoring the daily things. I started listening to what he was saying, and then I started playing the week back and saw what I was doing and tracking it, and then saw how I was overcoming some of it, see how a lot of it had been integrated and how a lot of it I had ignored. So it was almost like I don't know, final exam, it felt like, because everything was making sense and all these things were culminating, and I'm loving that I'm noticing all this stuff almost in the moment.
Dude, all that running around, and the gift was the realization of all that running around and how you used to act about it, how you treat it now. Like, wow, who'd have
Oh
thunk?
yeah.
Who'd have
I'd have
thunk
been a
it?
very different cat about all that about, a couple of years ago. I would have just said, forget it, I'm not doing it. I'd have
Love
quit
it.
way before now.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm taking all those um uh I missed this day, I missed that day, I didn't do the PQs and all that. I'm taking all that congratulations that you gave to Don. And yeah, same here.
It's one of the reasons that they changed the muscle points on your app too, because people were hyper achieving. They were controlling, they were stickling to get
Mm.
that number. And now it's like 18. And if you don't, no biggie, right? It's all for you. And you guys are making it for yourself now
And
instead
like
of
you
just
said,
telling you what.
that thing at the beginning when you open the app and you get congratulated, that means so much. Because yeah, if you miss a few days, you're going in with a lot of shit on your shoulders about it. And then poof, it's all gone with that little congratulations. Like, oh, here we go. I'm here. And let's just get past all that ugliness and get to it. It's much better.
And this whole week can be used as fodder for what we're doing this week. I mean, everything that happened to you, use that. It's all examples of accept, convert. You could see how you can apply the lessons from this week's training to the experiences of last week. Like, ooh, how would I have caught that, moved into innovate around that, and maybe gone, ooh, well, what I like about what these crazy steps that they're making me do is how secure and how much they care about those children and
Yeah.
keeping pedophiles and creeps away from those kids and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Find the 10%. Just there's so much that you can do with this and just catching it. Yay. Congratulations. Alan, your turn. Share with us what your week.
My week has been, I guess, three-dimensional. It started very well. I was very well prepared for the week. I knew it was a big week. And, I'm in, for the people that doesn't know, I'm semi-retired, but my business is in logistics. It's the crazy time of the year. And I knew that this week was, there's a lot of meetings, and I knew that I'd have to get involved where technically for the last 6 months I haven't. So I used the tools. I mean, the one thing that really helped me this week was to look. I had a picture before I would jump on the website that I looked at after my routine every time before I started the PQ process. And it's a picture of my kids in Arizona last year, or this year, actually this year, yeah. And that really helped me put myself in my sage brain. And I did very well all week. My interactions, I knew I'd have some tough interactions. And with the people that I had, I would look at them and think at, when they were 5 years old, and that helped me a lot. And those were tools that we learned in the first round. Having said that, I think I used them and I practiced them very, very well. At the end of the week, there was a situation with my girlfriend and her daughter. It's been a really tough relationship, and I always give her advice. But what I realized, and Rick, you said it, I realized it after I did this week's videos on, accepting or converting. And because as the week progressed, I saw myself getting more and more assertive with Marie, and then I realized I should accept how she's looking at the situation and not try to force myself for her to think the way I'm thinking. And last night, which was kind of a, we Don and Justin mentioned shit show. Yesterday was kind of a shit show. Today, though, I'll make a point to sit down with her and apologize, because what I realized yesterday is I was getting more upset with the situation than she was. And that should not happen, right? So I think the transition in this recharge session is 20 times better than it was in the old version. I don't know. Obviously, you put a lot of thought into this, but Rick, you said it. I mean, the transition of, what we did with empathize, and now what we're doing with explore and innovate is right in line how our brain thinks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting very, very high value out of this. So appreciate it.
Yay. Congratulations for having your shit show. So you can
all the shit shows.
Some material for this week.
There's 2 weeks left. 3 weeks left.
I just want to point out how ironic it is that the week that you guys were doing empathize as a practice were shit show weeks.
Yeah.
For a lot, yeah, for several people in this group.
Yeah.
So the sage perspective is I'm going to throw something out at you. It's either a gift or an opportunity. It's not both. Because if you're going through a difficult circumstance, it's easier to see, okay, well, what might this lead to? Or what's the opportunity? It ain't always easy to see what the gift is. And that sometimes is hindsight. So in this particular program, as it is now, you're going to see a different focus on what the sage perspective could look like. And again, it's a could look like. There are still the gifts of the sage, but I want you to remember that the judge and the sage perspective are both going to color. They're going to be self-fulfilling prophecies. If you think a thing is a shit show, it's a shit show. If you think a thing is a crazy crackerhead shit show, you can even make up words for it, and it can make you laugh. Where we get so stuck in the definition of what's happening, what we're dealing with. I love that Justin outed the victim, right? I mean, there's an opportunity, but only when you notice it. Only when you notice it can we make that change. And to me, it's that sacred pause. You feel a feeling. Exactly, Justin. You feel a feeling, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute. I don't like this feeling. That is that sacred moment. And in that moment, part of the sage perspective is also accepting and converting. What am I going to do with this feeling? What am I going to do with the situation? Am I going to make it different? Or is it something that right now I just need to breathe through? And I love the aspect of him teaching. So for any of us, when there is an obstacle or a challenge, you have energy around it, right? It's not like it's Zen. Yes, I'm really dealing with a lot of stuff right now. There's an energy to it. And this particular version of the program, he's teaching us what we've been teaching you guys all along. Do something with that energy. That's why the tense is such a great thing. Even if you just tense your hands or you tense your jaw. And to Alan's point, you can't want something more for someone than they want for themselves. You can't have someone else's perspective for them. So, in those moments of releasing, you get to accept. You get to feel the energy because it is an energy, right? There's a like, I don't like this. I don't want this. This isn't how I wanted it to go. This isn't the life that I wanted. This is a shit show. In that moment, there's so much energy, but we get to do something with it. And that, my friends, is the beauty in this next version. Typically, Rick and I will share sage perspective, things that have turned into gifts. But I got to be honest, also, we're more than halfway through, but you guys have done this enough that the sage perspective is much more, you get it, right? And you get how it lives in your life. So instead, Rick, let's go into the, do you want to go into either the other powers or do you want to go into, what do you want to do?
What I'd like to do is get everybody's take on listening to this new program because it was so different, right? He has already done the sage perspective as the farmer and the stallion story back when we were talking about the judge. So that piece was already done. This has come at a different point after empathize. He weaves in the yes and game. I just found it very different than the other one and really enjoyed it. And, I think we can share takeaways. What did you take from listening and doing the contemplation this time around? And it brought me right back to last night. I mean, I listened to it early this morning. I went right back to I had a day where I did not take good care of myself, and I allowed myself to add a soul guide consultation during my lunch break, and then presented the retreat at the very end of my day. And there couldn't be a worse time for me. I was so out of my sage by that presentation point that I knew I was reacting to her judge, and her judge was out of control. Like, well, why should I do this? And what are the experience? And I want profiles on every practitioner, and I want to know their techniques. And can I interview them before I come and do this? And her controller, blah blah blah. And I'm like, that's not how we work. No, you can't. And rather than empathy, I wasn't empathetic, and that price is way too much. Well, that's what it costs. Like, oh, Rick, I don't think she's going to come on this retreat.
Also, maybe that's a good thing. Let's call that. That's a gift.
All of that, right? Unless you can step out. But I finished the call and I realized I was out of it, and so boom. Point. Okay, your saboteur has shown up. Victim is here. Judge is here. What am I going to do about it? I did some PQs. I really reflected on it the next morning because it was still bothering me. But I took the whole conversation. So we got a new thing where it transcribes the whole conversation. I get a transcript of it. I dumped it into a chat and went into AI and said, okay, analyze this. Tell me where this went off the rails, what I did, and what I could have done differently. And it did that. I was able to take that in. It's funny how you can listen to a computer tell you it and not be reactive at all. If my boss had told me all this stuff, I just know my saboteurs would have been triggered again. But I was able to take that, and then I asked it, okay, so what would an expert salesperson do after all this? And it said, write an email that apologizes in this way and express empathy around this part, and go ahead and look up hotels for her that are available on the week that she comes, because she's going to be overwhelmed with the list that she requested of all that, and that might save her some money. And so I did all of that and sent it off to her. I haven't got anything back. We'll see if it makes a difference or not. I've kind of let that go. But in doing the contemplation today, it took me right back to that again, and I worked through it. And then I noticed that still, even though I've done all that, it's haunting me and coming back. So I like the idea of use that energy that comes back for something positive. So every time that comes up, I take a drink. I'm trying to get myself more hydrated today. So, here it is. Okay, take a drink. I'm aware that it's back again. And doing the tense and release. Wonderful for dealing that. I love that the sensation of release is the sensation of letting go. It's a physicalization of what it is to just let go of your problems. So I'm curious what other people's.
I want to share. I want to share also.
Yes,
so
Theresa, go.
I'm releasing a book. I wrote it 11 years ago, and I'm editing it. It's coming back out. It's supposed to be done on January 1st, and it's just freaking me out because it's not quite going to be there. So I'm going to do it January 13th. I'm also on a magazine cover and have a huge marketing PR thing coming out January 1st. Well, I was supposed to be all ready. I'm not quite as ready, but now every time I get stressed or I find myself procrastinating, 10 push-ups, 10 squats, I'm taking the energy instead of beating myself up. I should be further along. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I'm doing something physical. I'm jumping on my rebounder for a minute. Okay, you're going to beat yourself up. You're going to jump on that rebounder. Just like Rick is taking a drink of water. So I love the idea, and I put it in the chat. Take the energy somewhere. Rick is taking the beating up energy like, well, yep, there it is. Okay. And he's turning it into hydration. I'm turning it into movement because I love movement, and it shifts things through my body. So thank you for letting me jump in, and we get to hear from you guys now.
Right. So Justin, why don't you go first? Tell us what your takeaway was from listening to this week. Oh, you're muted.
Can you come back to me? I don't have anything
Okay.
right now. I mean,
Okay,
maybe
no
something will
problem.
jog.
Yeah. Ellen, your turn.
Well, as I mentioned, I think the chronological way of doing this hit home for me huge. And yesterday, I was referring to my shit show. We changed a bunch of stuff in our condo in Montreal, and I had to wait for furniture where Marie is here at our house and doing a bunch of stuff through the reno. I had arranged and paid more with the delivery company that came over, that was supposed to come over. So I ended up spending the entire day yesterday. I had an 8:00 flight to fly back. I ended up spending the entire day yesterday waiting for these guys, and they have an app, and the app wasn't true. And finally I called customer service at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I said, I've got a flight at 8:00, and can you tell me when they'll be there? And they said, well, we can't, you know how it is, right? And I said, well, I have to go. So finally the girl in customer service called the driver, and to make a long story short, they could not meet my deadline. So I was hyper frustrated. Yeah. And at the same time, I was going through the video, and every step of the hour or whatever video, every step, I would learn something, right? And how to deal with it. And I ended up at the end of the evening, just, you know, accepting it, and whatever happens. I mean, I you know, told myself I need to accept it. Then I changed this into a gift, and what can I learn from that? Um, Not anything physical, but I need to relax. And I told myself every time I think about it, I take 3 big breaths and I say, I am agreeing to accept it for now. And my plan is to go back to them and obviously fix the situation, and basically ask them to compensate for my day of not doing anything. So that's my plan. Having said that, I hadn't felt this, and it's crazy because it's kind of trivial, but I hadn't felt this for the longest time, to have that emotion come back every 45 minutes and be frustrated. So yesterday on the plane, and even this morning before I went to church, it was like, okay, 3 big breaths, and it's like, okay, I choose to accept this for now. That really hit home, because you go through these things every day, and you know, the most trivial stuff, even when I'm on the bike. I mean, I have vehicles cutting me off, and sometimes I get upset, sometimes I don't. And you know what? The 3 breaths that I take, and the feeling after I tell myself to accept it for now, I hadn't felt that for a long time. So
I'm gonna guess it feels like peace and relief. Is that close?
it definitely feels like peace.
Great.
I'm a 3. I don't feel
Sure.
relief that much,
So
right?
peace, but what I want you to focus on is the body sensation of accept. It feels
Yes.
like peace in that moment. Doesn't have to feel
Yeah.
like
Well,
yeah.
it's peace. It's peace for me. It's peace and rejuvenation,
Good.
because it's like I'm compartmentalizing it into a box to say, I'll fix this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll find a solution. Not right now. I'm choosing that situation not to affect me right now.
Perfect.
Beautiful. David, what was your experience of this week's exercises?
Um, resting in acceptance. I'm on such a kind of an epic sojourn journey right now, and even accepting, because we're supposed to take, a challenge, and where's the gift in it and stuff, and then sometimes that gift doesn't always present itself in the immediate. So there's a level of acceptance that there's a inconvenience taking place, a discomfort taking place, and then we look for the gift, and then if the gift isn't there, I accept that there is not a current gift in it. In that it's because it's the mosaic of life that just unfolds, and later, sometime down the road, you stand there and you look back at this, this amazing piece of artwork that is, all those little mosaic pieces. So I've been, my go-to on anything, I don't really do the tense and release thing as much as I do breath work. I do a microcosmetic breath work, a lot of just grounding, and just sitting both feet back on the floor, breathing in through my nose, up into, that higher light above, and breathing down into my pelvic floor, and then back up through the back of my spine to the hip, and letting that microcosmic take place. That is probably the most grounding thing I can do, because even in doing that, my monkey mind is zooming around my restlessness, which is my number one saboteur. But once I get like 3 to 5 of those microcosmic rotations, it is so grounding. And so that's where I go to, is and oddly enough is another thing I do, because free diving, and I've got some goals in mind, is my equalization is I'll go and do some equalization practices. which is a PQ rep in itself because it requires an intense amount of concentration on how to get that equalization. You exhale all of the air out of your lungs and then try and equalize, and there's nothing left, so you have to be very diligent about it. So that's a kind of just a PQ rep for me. So I do weird PQ reps. Very unusual ones, I don't do this one so much, but I do whatever in very different places. I do them in very, very different ways and stuff. And I like that because then that is the celebration of creativity. It's like, wow, I was able to do a PQ rep on that, and almost with that explore and innovative. It seems as though the more I start to do this, the more things pop off and interrelate, the explore and the innovate on how to do a different kind of PQ rep, and then you celebrate in that, and then it just goes and goes. It seems to really, I'm really enjoying this. This has really been profound this time through, and that it's getting a lot more traction than it did the first time. Yeah.
Excellent. Yay. Cindy, share what your experience with this module is like so far.
So this past week, honestly, I didn't get to an awful lot of it. What I will say is that last Sunday, because I wasn't ready to participate fully, I talked myself out of even showing up. And then kicked myself for it half of the week, like, well, I guess I'm done with the program. I hate to miss it, but da 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 da. So it's like, no, we're not going to play that way. So even though I'm not, in my mind, fully prepared this week, it's like, no, show up. Just show up. Just be there, And so that's my takeaway with it. It just, last week was chaotic. The week before that was frankly even more chaotic. I know very well with myself that when I allow myself to get into really chaotic situations, or at least feel all the chaos, it generally means I'm trying not to feel something. And so right now, I'm still working on what is it that I'm avoiding feeling in some kind of way. And I don't know what it is, not yet. But that's kind of where I'm at. So accepting right now, I'm trying to just accept that, yeah, the past few weeks were chaotic. The next couple ones are going to continue to be chaotic with the holidays, and that's okay. And just get done what you can get done and be gentle with myself as much as I can be gentle with myself. And, on Thursday, we had our puppy got spayed. I had to go see a doctor. It was just crazy. And I had committed to making a big charcuterie board for the gym party, holiday party. Well, one of my lovely ailments that I have, in addition to the arthritis, is I have some kind of tendon issue in my hand where if I overuse it, my thumb locks to my hand, and then I can't use my thumb or my hand. Well, sure enough, it did that Thursday, right after all of that work. So that just added to more of my beating myself up. Why am I doing this? Who cares if I make this thing or I don't make it? So enough with all of that. I'm just trying to be gentle with myself and say, yeah, you know what? Even if you're not fully as prepared in your own mind as you feel like you need to be, just show up. So
I love that.
That's all I've got.
I've got a client that has reframed chaos and chaotic. She calls it chaos magic. Chaos magic is afoot. Everything's going to fall into the right places, just not the places I thought were the right places.
There you go. I love it. I'm going to borrow that.
Sit back and watch God do their thing, and things fall where it needs to fall. So
yeah, and it fell into place, in places. So
thank you for being back here, Cindy. Congratulations.
Oh, listen, I would hate to miss it again. I'm going to hate when we end too. So this is great. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right, Dawn, your turn. Tell us what your takeaway is from listening to this week's.
I had quite a few things. Some things have been rehashed, the yes and, right? What part of the elephant are you looking at or feeling or
Yeah,
being at that time?
yeah. I love that.
So I love that. And I've heard it before, the push the car to work thing, all of that, but it really reiterated in my mind. Because I'm really good at not listening to other people's opinions on how to do things, right? Whether they're doing it or I'm doing it. It's just, I'm horrible at that, right? And trying to find that 10%, like not dismissing it right away, and then the other person feeling deflated, right? I love the way he said that too, because that's the way I feel if someone does that to me, right? And I'm thinking like, well, wow, it just hit me in the right spot there. But finding the gift in things, that's also been reiterated a few times, but it's nothing that I really used up until this weekend. Finding the gift, right? Whether it's a gift or not. But the main thing that I really took away from this last module was the accept or convert thing, and how to like tense up and feel that acceptance, and then just let that go, and then you feel so much different. Even it's unbelievable what that does for you. And you don't have to accept it forever, right? But it doesn't have to sit and be a sab in your back of your head forever either. So accept it for now, readdress it later. I didn't even know you could do that. I thought it always had to take space in your head until it was done.
Until it gets solved.
Wow.
The point of all that is you're choosing. Before, acceptance is, oh, I guess I gotta, I guess it has to happen this way. But now it's like, you know what? Right now I choose to accept this. You've then moved it into your choice. It is like, I am choosing right now to accept this versus this is being thrust upon me. I'm so busy. Life is hard and I'm having to do this. It's like, no, you know what? I'm gonna accept it right now. It changes the entire mindset and puts it back into your own locus of control.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
You guys are all rocking.
Denny, what was your takeaway from?
I didn't do it.
Oh,
I feel I'm running
yet.
1 week behind you guys.
Okay.
I started I've been running to catch up, and as I hear everybody talk, this is going to be very important for me, because I do carry in the back of my mind this stuff about, geez, it should have been better and it shouldn't be different, and I feel bad, and I'm getting in touch. This is exactly where I need to go. So thank you all for tuning me in.
It's a fun one.
Yeah, it'll be really important.
Right?
And I can drop a lot of that crap.
Yeah. And you can even use the energy of that nagging crap as a reminder to do something else, like, drinking water, bouncing on a rebounder,
Yeah.
whatever it is,
whatever it is.
something that's positive. And okay, well, that's my reminder. Every time it comes up, it just brings more awareness, and it is conversion. So I think you'll really enjoy it.
I look.
And share with us next week what comes out of it for you too, Sydney. I mean, even though we're working on what was going on this week, freaking share what you learned. This is all part. It's all part of the process. It's this big soup, this really smart soup.
All right, Justin, do you have a thought?
Yeah, one of the things that worked for me this week was the tension and release thing that he did.
Did or didn't work?
It did.
Oh, good.
It did. Because I already had so much tension,
right?
That when I create an artificial tension and let that go, it sucks all of the real tension out with it, kind of like flushing a toilet.
Right?
And God, tension and release is how our bodies, how our minds finds pleasure in just about anything. It's so much of what we go for in life is tension release in so many different ways. So that was a very hidden and profound thing that I dug up this week. So I did implement it a few times, and boy, just that feeling of just sailing and floating after you let go is really something.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like that was the least used portion of my brain gym, the tense and release ones. I was like, blah. And now I'm all into it. Theresa?
Again, same thing. There's going to be an energetic component. There's going to be a body component to so many of these feelings. And if we feel like we're being victimized by them or we just have to deal with them, it's different than when we take our own power back and tense ourselves instead of just, well, I'm tense. How many of you have been like, well, my neck is just really tense? Well, if that's true, why don't you tense it up then? Right? Like that if this is already tense it and release it. Then it moves us into a more powerful state of being. And that's really what all of this program is about. Whether you're doing all of it exactly as it's meant to be, whether you're doing some of it, whether you're doing most of it, none of it matters. That you're doing it is what matters. That is the navigate. That is your North Star. Just do it. Just doing it.
Thank you all very much for your shares today. It really makes these calls work. I love this. This is so much fun. So we're going to be back again at the bottom of the hour for those of you that are in the Sage Pod. Looking forward to seeing some of you again there, and have an amazing week with this stuff. It'll be really interesting and fun.